Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Shika. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Real Academy this morning with Shika and Tammy. We are so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are one of those folks who are with us each week, we want to say thank you very, very much for supporting us and for always being a part of what we have going on in the Real Academy. If you're new to the Real Academy, we want to welcome you and say thank you for tuning in and just let you know that good morning, Melissa. We are always excited to have new folks to join us. Hi, Sinitra. Good to see you guys. Thank y'all for coming on. Because we are truly wanting again to be the change that we want to see in education. Good morning, Principal Hurd. Thank you so much for a fabulous session this morning on the study of great teachers and helping us to understand what those successful teachers do. You absolutely rocked it this morning, as always, and we want to say thank you for such amazing information. And I mean, we love the content. You're always spewing so much knowledge, but one of those things that just resonated with us this morning was your discussion on how great successful teachers have to be outside the box thinkers, and that is so true, because if you are doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So we really appreciate you um, bringing that to the attention of your audience this morning, because we have to be that change. And as administrators, as superintendents, as those folks who are leading teachers, we encourage you to also be outside the box thinkers, because if you think outside the box, it helps your staff to recognize that that's okay and that's something that you can support. Hi, Dot McKeever Jeter is on here with us. Thank you so much for joining us, as always. We always are excited to have folks with us. Rashawn Dupree, thank you for joining us. We are, again, elated and want to just make sure everybody knows that the Real Academy is based on the framework that Shika and I put together for establishing and helping to correct those things that cause schools to be in school improvement status, as well as to have those state sanctioned identifications attached to you. That Real Academy is something that we use in our schools to move our schools forward after an identification like that. The R stands for respect, the E stands for excellence, the A stands for accountability, the L stands for literacy, and then that final L stands for leadership. And we outline that framework very carefully because we really took those components to turn our school situations around. Shika's school moved up 2 report card grades in 1 year, and mine moved up 3 report card grades. And it truly is based on decision making that's based on that framework. We have a framework for literacy. We also have a framework for culture and climate that has 3 different phases. So again, welcome. And thank you guys for joining us. Miss Ann Green, I see you joined as well. So thank you guys for being on with us this morning. We are looking forward to talking with you about school improvement this morning. And we also want to just say that we hope everybody is getting some time to renew, rejuvenate, and refresh, getting in some reading, some family time, whatever you need to do to go back into 2022, 2023, the best version of you that you can be. So a part of that, and Principal Hurt said that this morning, he said that joining these podcasts and being a part of these PD sessions that are offered all align with making yourself ready for that next school year. He was on at 10. We're on now. Principal Kafele is going to be on at 10:55, and then Unlock the Middle will be on tomorrow evening. So we are going straight through the summer, trying to make sure that we are offering this support that is needed to help you to prepare for going into that next school year.
Definitely, Tammy, and thank you for greeting everyone while I was feeding us through to try to make sure we're spreading the word. We know that by us going through that process and needing the help that we needed, we were able to get that help from doing what you just said, listening to people like Principal Hurt,
Yes,
soliciting help. And so we want to make sure that we're available to help people as well.
absolutely.
Two major things this weekend we just want to highlight before we get into the topic of today. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers.
Happy
And
Father's Day.
yes, also make sure that you are doing something to celebrate Juneteenth, which is on June the 19th. We had a celebration on yesterday, and we will also be joining the Brainerd Institute today for Gullah workshops. And we had a great time last night and were
Nice.
able to work with a lot of children that came out from the community. So that went very well.
That's good.
But as Tammy stated, and she just recently is coming back from being a presenter at Celebrating Our Journey Continuous Improvement Conference because her school and other schools in the state have done a great job of going through the school improvement conference. And what we want to do is just highlight a lot of those takeaways from the conference and then from the experience and tell you how our framework, because that's the framework that she and I use to improve our schools, 2 and 3 report card grade levels in 1 year. And there were just a lot of takeaways, a lot of common themes from that conference. Tammy, you want to go ahead and start off with that?
Absolutely. So first of all, I like to say it was an absolutely phenomenal conference where schools across the state came together to share the incredible things that they're doing inside their schools to move students forward. And as Principal Hurt says, to continue to move that academic needle. It was absolutely a phenomenal day, and I am humbled for the invitation to have been extended to us to come and be a part of such an incredible event. I mean, I have to shout out my team because that they were absolutely spectacular, and I recognize Miss Glennis Brooks, who's our transformation coach, who insisted that we come. So I have to say thank you to her for forcing that issue because we initially had planned not to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that we really were able to be a part of that showcase and share exactly what our journey looks like. And then, of course, my assistant principal, Tanya Moore, my literacy coach, Deborah Jordan, and my math coach, Allison Brooks, were the team that I took down. And as I said, they were absolutely spectacular in highlighting that journey for us. So I have to shout them out because
Definitely.
it was a great, great experience. But I think that the most important takeaway from the showcase experience for me was that school improvement, and it just confirmed it, is a process. And that if you find yourself there, you just have to commit to it and know that it's going to take a lot of hard work, but it will work itself out. And another huge takeaway on that, aligned with that, is even though it feels like you are completely in this by yourself, it confirmed that you're not alone. Like when you are going through that process, you really honestly have to trust the process and just remember that schools across the state, across the nation are facing the same woes that you're feeling. And this whole demoralization that we experience from how that identification just makes you feel so hopeless and ostracized. It doesn't have to be like that. Like it isn't supposed to be that way, because the team that was there from the Office of School Transformation were very encouraging and were excited to hear from us about the things that are happening in our schools. And so it's all about, I think, how it's perceived and how it's received, because the
Mhm.
perception of people, unfortunately, is their reality. And I don't know about you, but I can still remember sitting in an auditorium when those report cards were displayed, and hearing how, this is pretty much your fate. You'll never be able to get out of this predicament that you're in. And
Mhm.
so you're sitting there shrinking. Like I really literally wanted to disappear, because I felt like we were lost in this sea of the abyss, because
Right.
you're being told that the nothingness of the situation is just your reality. And
Right.
so I was like horrified, and I'm sure you felt that same demoralization. And it's just such a demeaning way to approach the situation. And
It
a
is.
colleague shared, I don't know, I think I shared this with you, but a colleague shared how in her context, they had the administrators in a room, and each one of them had to identify themselves and say their rating. Like, I'm Tammy Taylor, and I'm unsatisfactory. And they go around the room, and everybody does that. And that is
That's
such,
demeaning.
yes,
Yes.
it's a very demeaning experience.
And you and I talked about first of all how the state doesn't didn't view it as a thing that's supposed to be demeaning to leaders, to teachers, to children. But I think that because superintendents, um, educational leaders who work at the district level are not able to understand how their messaging needs to be to educate their school boards as well as the media on exactly what the process is and what they're doing to help the district. I think that's where that comes from. It's number one, not being knowledgeable of how to help. So you deflect instead of wanting to help. Now, oh, it's their fault. The goal is to get rid of these incompetent leaders who have, made the district look bad. And because you're not familiar with how to navigate that, that's your messaging and those are your actions. And what made us want to even create the framework, be vocal about it, is the fact that it doesn't have to be that.
No, and it shouldn't be. Like, you shouldn't
No.
feel traumatized while you're trying to correct a wrong that is apparently existing in your context, whatever that is, because different people have different stories. And that was
Right.
another common thing throughout this conference. It was that everybody has a story. And
Mm-hmm.
the stories are very intriguing, because even though they're all very different, they're all still the same.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you find yourself in this abyss that
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how to get yourself out of. And
Right.
I'm so thankful for the opportunity, because like when it's happening, you don't know why, and you don't really see what God is doing. But now, like, it's very clear. Like there was a reason that we
Mm-hmm.
had to experience what we experienced, so that other people don't have to.
Exactly. Good morning, Principal Kafele.
Hi, Principal Kafele.
And you're exactly right, Tammy. And I think the reason why, up until we have decided to do this, a lot of things haven't existed is because of the shame that's associated with being in state sanctioned school improvement, that process. But it has been a blessing for us because it has, number one, shown us how to navigate it. And we did that, came out of it in 1 year. And two, we're willing to share that information. And because a lot of people who have come out of it have not really necessarily, or maybe have known how to share that information, but that messaging to, from the top, has to be important messaging that this is something that we're all in together. The district is here to support you. Not that, what are you going to do? And it's a deflection type thing to demoralize people. That shouldn't happen, because ultimately what that does is sends a message not only to the leader, but also to the students as well as the teachers who work at that school as well. And that was one of the things, as a leader at the school, it didn't matter to me what people were saying or what their thoughts were. I made sure my staff knew we are not this rating. To the students, you are not this rating. This is what was reflected, and this is what we're going to do to make sure people know exactly who we really are, because this is not it.
And you know what else? The other thing that makes this really tricky is like when you don't have a support system that comes all the way from the top, it makes your parents question what's happening in that school. And so parents, when they don't think that their children are in a good school, there is this constant back and forth with the questioning of what's happening at the school, what the decisions are, and why you're making these kinds of decisions. And that's the reason I think that it has to be that there isn't a state view and a district view. This needs to be what we are doing to help the school and move the school forward. Like you, my teachers knew that this rating does not represent who we are. Like we are way better than we look on paper right now. And I would say to the kids, listen, you're what makes Great Falls great. So you can't worry about what others are thinking or saying. And this happens like within that network of people. Like colleagues were saying, you better be careful because you don't want to end up in the same situation as Great Falls Elementary School. So when teachers hear that, that really does kind of deflate if you allow it to, because I refuse, and I'm sure you felt the same way. Like this will not be our reality. Like you can think whatever you want to think, and that's fine. But what you think has no bearing on what we're doing.
Exactly. And that part of it, that messaging and how it goes out, is very important. But superintendents, educational leaders at the district level, they have to know how to support schools in that process. And sometimes those people may not have gone through the process to know.
Right.
So, but when you don't know, that doesn't stop you from finding out, just like we did. We had not been through the process either, but we found out how to navigate it, and that's what we did. And so that's why we want to help others. And not only does the framework we created help you if you're in school improvement, but we've also created a section to improvement or state-sanctioned school improvement status, because there's several things that you can do to be proactive instead of reactive. We definitely don't want you to be on the reactive side. Proactive is much better.
Yeah. And like those, so just so people, if you're tracking, because I know that this information is really important, especially if you find yourself anywhere near this. But just know that like the first thing that we have unveiled is that this doesn't have to be a traumatizing experience. And we do really truly outline. We first talk about what happened, and then we talk about what it could be or what it should be.
Right.
The second is just what Sheikah just said. Like the messaging has to be such that the school is supported, or you lose the credibility of that school being able to navigate the process. And then a third thing, and this is something that we both experienced, and you live through it. You think it's going to kill you at the time, but you'll get through it. Your staff turnover is inevitable. You just have to prepare for that. People are going to abandon this process. It's a lot of work. People don't want to be associated with the label because, again, nobody understands exactly what that means. Right. And so people are going to leave. Now, you're also going to have to coach some people out, because some people need to go so that you can put people in place who can help you to make this a turnaround situation.
Right. And there's a way and a process to go about that whole thing. And that was something that we looked for. We look for that roadmap or the the guide, and there wasn't one. So once we went through it, that's what we've created to help people. But you're right, Tammy, and that was one of the things that I kind of struggled with when our superintendent asked me to move to the district level. After going through that process and our team improved the school to report card grade levels, I struggled with the fact that, well, now that I'm leaving, there's certain things that happens to a school when the principal leaves. Number one, there's turnover. Number two, the absenteeism of students rises and the achievement level falls a lot of times because of all of those things that I just mentioned. So, it's a struggle, and that's something that superintendents also need to be aware of when we're helping them to create that correct messaging, to educate the board on what that process is and why it comes about and how to communicate that message to the media. We also need to let them know, too, that these things happen when a principal leaves a school. So if you've just recently gone through that process, you have to make sure that there are certain systems in place that are continued to make sure, again, that we're being proactive to not get back to that status.
Yeah.
And one unique thing about our situation, my school was a priority school and Tammy's school was a CSI school. Her school was required to do certain things. My school was only had it as an option. But knowing what she was going through her process, my thing was, well, really, the priority schools should have been required to go through the same things, because we didn't have the transformation coaches and we didn't have a lot of the training unless you decided to go. And because I heard what Tammy was going through, I did go. But if you didn't go, you weren't aware of a lot of the things. And so some of those priority schools are now going to find themselves in the CSI status just because they didn't understand what the whole process was about. They didn't get that support or the information.
And that certainly is possible. The other thing, the reason that I encourage you to attend is because the sessions really are great. Like, they are good. You get great materials, and all of that is a part of that process. Like, the things that you don't know, you just don't know. And sometimes you don't know that you don't know them because you don't know you're supposed to know them. Right. And that's the importance of making sure that the message comes from the top and that there is a support system in place for administrators. And that's what we committed to doing. Like, we know exactly how it feels to be out there. And because we know how it feels, we are committed to making sure that we can be a part of that solution in districts when there is that issue, because you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
The other two things that were key for us, because we got to get out of the way of Principal Kafele, were we had to have strong leadership teams. I know, and I'm sure Shika feels exactly the same. I could not have done the work that we've done without my team. Like, they are the reason that things happened the way that they happened. And finally, we just have to say, you have to trust the process. Now, what we have done is outline the process so that there is something to trust. But that process is something that if you follow, like, the decisions that we made were based on those things that I mentioned before. If you follow the outline, then that leads you away from improvement, or that steers you clear of falling into that state-sanctioned improvement. And we are living testimonies to say that the process does work.
Definitely. And congratulations to your school, Tammy, to go from the bottom 5% all the way up to 1 point away from excellent is phenomenal. It is outstanding, and I commend you all.
And the story is continuing to be told. We're so excited. We're just looking forward to what the new school year brings. And I'm thankful, Shika. I mean, and it's the same to you. I know you're not there anymore, but it was a lot of work. And I thank God that I had you to lean on through that process, because not knowing that there are other people, at least we had each other.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what our entire book is about. It doesn't have to be lonely at the top. We are devoted to helping schools avoid or come out of school improvement. So visit our website for more information and contact us if you would like the training. This is Josh talking about the ivory tower. We are
Moving
definitely
on
committed to helping you out of that process. So join us on Principal Kafele's page. He is coming up next. And I will put the link to our website in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you.